Joining me today is Damien Mu, Chief Distribution and Marketing Officer at AIA Australia. He'll be speaking at IIR's Retail Financial Services Forum, which takes place on the 27th to 28th of September 2011 in Sydney. Damien, thanks very much for joining me today.
No problem.
First of all, what have been some of the major recent advances in banking technology and what has been the resulting impact?
Right, okay. Well, James, in regards to, there's been a number of recent technology innovations in the banking industry. I think, in particular on that online space, the banks have definitely been the leader in that from a financial services perspective. And I think it's really been about enabling the customer to do things online simply through electronic means of forms or submissions or whatever that may be, but really putting the customer experience in the hands of the customer through online technology. Closely behind the banks, you've probably seen wealth management providers and superannuation funds. I'll probably focus a little bit, being from an insurer, on the insurers for a minute, but insurers have probably been late adopters when it comes to that sort of technology in terms of financial services. But we are seeing a lot of movement over the last couple of years in respect to electronic underwriting and claims and communication with the customer through electronic means, both online, through the web, and also by things like iPhone and smartphones and Androids and those types of things. So we are seeing a lot of innovation in the underwriting and claim space when it comes to insurance, but definitely it's been the banks and other financial services networks that have been the leader.
And how can IT be considered as a business partner rather than just a stakeholder?
Well, I think this is the interesting one. I think my view on this is that it's interesting that when you look within an organisation, there's various departments, but I sometimes look at sitting meetings and think about the language that's being used, and when there's a meeting between, for example, distribution, operations and IT, it's generally IT saying, well, what does the business want, and the business being distribution and operations and other areas, but IT being segregated from that business, where they're actually under the one company and one umbrella. And I think it's about bringing IT closer into the tent in terms of the initial engagement around, coming up with strategy and solutions, rather than going with a solution in mind and then putting it at the doorstep of IT to say, okay, we need you to build it. So I think there's a couple of things there. One is, I think we just got a language and cultural barrier thing that naturally exists in organisations where IT is a separate entity, and we really just need to break down that barrier and say, well, let's not talk about the business and IT as separate, but the business being IT as well. And secondly, looking at our normal processes around, strategy and planning and development of business initiatives, and making sure that we're bringing our IT partners or colleagues in IT into the tent early on, so that they're actually having input at that level, as opposed to just go away and build it type thing.
And do you think the benefit of being first to market is now actually being outweighed by second mover advantage?
Look, I think, James, there's no right or wrong in that. It's definitely horses for courses in that respect. Some people see the benefit of being a market leader gives them an initial jump, and that might be really what they're looking for. However, I do believe the second mover advantage is the more long-term sustainable benefit for an organisation. And I think that's where you're really going, right, let's being a market leader will give you a short-term result by being first to market, but in terms of longer-term sustainable benefits, that second mover advantage definitely gives you the time to consider some of the issues that have been experienced by that first mover in terms of what they brought to market, and also to allow you to really work closely with your customer to understand what they're looking for, so that you deliver a solution that is ultimately built from their perspective, as opposed to when in a lot of times you see first mover advantages being something that's been developed in-house and then pushed out, as opposed to building it from a customer perspective, which second mover advantage gives you.
And as far as building from a customer perspective is concerned, how would you rate customer-driven technology versus a build it and customers will come type of approach?
Well, I think it's once again, I think we're definitely seeing, I'll use the insurance industry as an example, and our own company, where we've been able to build it from a customer perspective and a technology solution. We've seen far better take-up in usage as opposed to building something that we believe will hit the mark and then popping it up and making it available on the shelf or online. And what you realise very quickly is that if you don't build it from that customer perspective, that you're just not going to get the benefits you potentially could get or perceived you would get if you take the time to actually understand the customer's needs, both from a usability or practicality perspective, and ultimately what their objectives are from having that interaction with you in the first place. So I definitely think that we really need to move back to building solutions from a customer perspective. And if you look at financial services organisations, I think you'll see in every organisation part of their strategy or part of their plan or part of their ethos is the customer first. So if we're going to say the customer is first, then we really need to engage them in terms of understanding their needs before we build things.
What can the retail financial services sector learn from other industries as far as technology is concerned?
Well, I think the retail financial services sector can learn a lot. I mean, I think there's some parts of that industry, like the banks and others, who have made great progress in terms of being able to make interacting easy online with their customers. However, if we look at, I look at it in terms of, if we take, I don't want to go there, but in terms of using the old iPhone example, or Apple, or even, Sony and their PlayStations, and, Nintendo and the Wii, these are organisations who have really gone out and looked at the end customer experience being critical to the success of their products, and we've seen how successful they've all been. Whenever they come out with something, it's about enhancing that customer experience. So, every year Sony can continue to bring out another PlayStation version and people will go out and buy it. Same with Nintendo, same with the iPhone. The other way, I think, in terms of the retail financial services sector can learn from is from social media. And actually talking to customers. Something that we probably don't have is as well as some of those social media type organisations, is that we have scale and a lot of people, but how many conversations are we genuinely having? It's not like we can call up and talk to a couple of million people and sit down and have a coffee and talk to them. But through social media, we're seeing that people are having real dialogue with lots of end customers and people, and they're actually getting to express their views, and that's just so important in terms of then influencing what is actually delivered in the end. I mean, I think it's become a key part of research now. We just don't look at reports with statistics in them anymore. We look at the sort of activity that's happening in the social media space.
Damien, you're speaking at IIR's Retail Financial Services Forum, which takes place on the 27th to 28th of September 2011 in Sydney. What will you be focusing on in your presentation?
Look, in that presentation, I think, I don't think I'm going to be talking about anything that a lot of people wouldn't already be thinking, but I just really want to reinforce a couple of messages that I've seen, or we've seen, working well in terms of getting back to putting the customer at the forefront of what we're doing and building customer-based solutions, and the value and benefit in that. And what we've learned in terms of, as an industry, what we've learned when we've done it the other way around and done it through the build it and they will come type mentality versus the other way. Definitely, questioning organisations to think about how important it is being first to market, and do we really understand what that means versus that second mover advantage, which is supporting, once again, building from a customer perspective, I believe. And finally, learning from other industries. I think it's, like I mentioned, if we look at some other organisations and who we all have customer at the heart of our plans, and in all the strategy and all the things that we write up of what's important to our organisation. But can we learn from organisations who have really demonstrated that well? And I go back to the likes of Apple, Sony, Nintendo, and those types. And let's not lose sight. While it's a different product, they're still dealing with customers and how they've been able to engage well with customers, and then probably drawing on let's look at what's worked well in the social media space and how can we leverage that to really have conversations with customers to get to know them better, which has been difficult for us to do as an industry just through the interactions we've normally had.
Damien Mu, many thanks for your time today. We're looking forward to your presentation at the event in Sydney in September.
Thanks, James. Looking forward to it myself. Thank you.